You always do surprise me with it.
Why would I do that to you? Why would I press record and then not tell you?
You do it every single time. That's
I'm
how
not
you end up with the sound bites at the beginning. You're Amazon, Ash, or Ghost interrupting. I'm technologically jinxed, so things will just break.
Yeah.
Potentially my mum might call back, you never know.
You've already tried it before.
Yeah. And food or drink related.
We have the best luck when it comes to these podcasts. Speaking of podcast, welcome back to Path Publication. My name's Finn.
I'm Andie.
And this is episode 11. Can you believe it, Andie? We're on 11 now.
I know, we've been putting these out like once a month, which I think is really nice going at the minute. Hopefully we can probably in the future look at getting some more episodes out. We'll see.
We've got a list of future episodes already. So we've got topics to draw from for the future. Yeah, and I also as well, I'm quite proud of the fact that we managed to get an episode out every single month since I think last August. 21st of August last year, we have released a podcast episode every single month without fail. So welcome to episode 11, which will get released in September. We've not really got a structure for this episode, as you may have already guessed from all the other previous episodes we've done. It's kind of like how would you describe this episode, Andie?
Kind of just catching up because we've been through a bit of a journey now. Past 11 episodes, we've brought on some guests. We've talked about our different writing techniques, our styles, and there's been quite a few developments for ourselves personally and with our writing in the background of recording all of this. So I thought it'd just be a nice time to just drop in and go, hey Finn, how's your writing going?
It's been going really, really well. Like I said, since starting this podcast almost 2 years ago now, we started in September 2023. Don't worry, it's not an anniversary episode, but I'm just saying that it was almost 2 years ago today that we started this podcast.
Wait, hold on. How has it been 2 years and we've only got 11 episodes?
There was a little bit of a gap. We've already picked ourselves up at the beginning of the podcast, and now Andrew's like ripping down those walls and like, no, we're terrible. But I have to say, this has
not
been
mapping.
I have to say though, this has been a very positive impact on my own writing. It's kind of like made me my own kind of like bodyguard in terms of like, you need to write something. You can't just turn up on the podcast every week and go like, I've not really written anything at the moment, Andie. Can you take over for this? You can't really do that. It's not sustainable. And this kind of like keeps me in check of like, you need to keep writing. You need to improve your writing and take it further than you would do if you were doing it on your own. And I like the fact that we're kind of like our own bodyguards. We can keep each other in check with this sort of thing. And hopefully people are listening at home feel like that's something they can relate to as well. That they feel like this podcast kind of keeps you in check of like being consistent with your writing and like constantly improving it, looking at ways to kind of network and maybe get your writing more professionally produced, that sort of thing. I mean, that's the aim of this podcast anyway.
Do you feel that you're in a better place looking at your own writing and being critical of it? Or do you still think you're in a bit of a unconfident, bit of imposter syndrome kind of position with your writing?
I will mention this later on, because we did mention about the script reads we've been having recently. But definitely the thing of like, I feel more confident in my writing, and I also feel more like an imposter each day that goes by. I'm like more confident most days. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a really good scene. I'm really happy with that. Or that really made me laugh. I'm keeping that in. And then other days I'll go to a script read and I'll be like, I am so inept. I am so not professional. I am a fraud. So yeah, it's kind of like it's like peaks and valleys, isn't it? So
how did you find your script read episode was?
We'll go back to episode 10. It felt really weird. I remember I texted you after the table read and I was like, I feel kind of like warm and fuzzy inside and I feel a bit kind of validated, which is something I didn't get when I submit that to the BBC, because obviously you get the generic like boilerplate message of we weren't successful. It doesn't really tell you anything about your scripts. Which I know obviously they can't do that because of the amount of submissions they get every year. And now I'm waffling. But I really enjoyed doing that table read. It was great. And you know what? The edit of that table read episode was actually probably the quickest ones I've ever done. I don't know what it was. I think it was because I was enjoying listening to it. I was enjoying taking part in it as well. So, I don't know, it felt like the edit was a breeze. Really did. And it was nice having all of my friends there as well and them giving like really good insight about the script and stuff like that. Like the absolute best note from that script came from Devon from episode 6 when he said, "Where's Phil?" And I'm like, of course. Why had I forgotten about Phil? I'm such an idiot. But like, it's the best note. And I love the fact that Gina picked up on the fact that Sophia deserves better, and she does. That was the point I wanted to get across, and she hit the nail on the head. I love the fact that EP could relate to some of the characters as well, namely the pizza delivery driver, as he is a former pizza delivery driver. So I like that as well. It's affirming. It was really good. I really enjoyed it.
I think it's given you quite a spark for rewriting it as well, because our WhatsApp message now is just full of you, like with ideas, with rewrites, with further episodes that you could take it. It's kind of sparked that rewrite that you want to do, instead of it being rested for like 10 years. You've forgotten about it. It's in the vaults. Fuck that shit. You've brought it back out, and you want to invest in it again, which is really nice.
I don't want people to get disheartened by this, but I think when I got that response back from the BBC, I was a bit like, okay, well, I'm not a writer. What am I doing with my life? I'll put that in a drawer somewhere and never look at it again. That's part of the reason why it's been kind of untouched for however long it was, like 11 years or something like that. Because it kind of like, that really disheartened me. It made me feel like I was a fraud, basically. And obviously, I'm not a fraud, and I know it's not going to be Shakespeare, but I kind of was too harsh on myself back then. Since having the table read, I have been filled, like you said, I've been fulfilled with a lot more confidence to like go back to it, upgrade it, update it, do another draft of it. And as I mentioned beforehand, there were two pizza scripts. I submitted episode 2, and I forgot that I had episode 1 there as well. I've actually gone back to episode 1, and I've done a redraft of that, which Andy's going to read it this weekend. Yes. And tell me that it's shit. But
yeah, I thought I'd just bring you down after the high.
Knock him down a few pegs.
Yeah, you've got too big for your boots already, mate. Like, get down.
But there are, like, having done that read, it was very kind of reaffirming of like, yes, I am a writer, and yes, I am funny. And there are certain moments where I'll stop myself from laughing on the script, and there's some moments that actually broke me. Like Devon saying, "That's better." That completely broke me when he read that line. That was the perfect read of that line, and you could tell it kind of threw me off the rest of the script. But yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed that, and I hope you guys did too. On the last episode, it's probably one of the longer episodes we've done. Not the longest, by Devon, but it was one of the longest ones. But it was an absolute breeze to do, and I loved editing it. And hopefully there will be one in the future. I know that, Andy, you have got something in the vault that you want to share with us at some point in the future.
But yeah, it's just a bit harder because mine's going to be a longer one because it is a feature film. It was one of the first feature films that I ever wrote.
That one might take the cake as the longest Path Application podcast.
Yeah, and it'll probably also be the shittest episode.
How so?
Because the script is shit. Like, I know that. Reading it back, I know full well it's very, very shit.
One of the things what came from redrafting those pizza scripts is like, I wrote those scripts before I was in a relationship. So I was a single 22-year-old when I wrote those scripts, and you can tell because the relationship dialogue that I had in that first script doesn't really make sense. It comes from a very naive point of view. And through redrafts, I can be like, let's punch up the dialogue a little bit. Let's kind of like make this look a little bit more realistic. You know, it's supposed to be a slapstick sitcom, but it wasn't very realistic kind of relationships. Whereas in my redraft, we're trying to make it a little bit more realistic.
But don't go too realistic because you still want to keep that whimsy, not realism.
I do want to kind of lean into silliness. I don't want to make it a drama. I want to lean into the silliness. Obviously, there might be dramatic elements into it, but I want it to be silly at the end of the day.
That is the essence of writing comedy, is we lean into the silly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. But yeah, it's filming with the vigour of spring, shall we say. It's been good. It's been such a lovely process to pick that up from 11 years ago and just realise that like it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Even EP said that. Wasn't as bad as I was making it out to be, and I am going to redraft episode 1, which you didn't listen to, and the aim of that is to actually submit that to a writers group table read that's not my friends, like random people that I am not related to or friends with, try and get an unbiased opinion of what that script is actually like. And if I get some good feedback from that or bad feedback from that, I can then upgrade that and maybe even submit it to another agency or another TV producer, that sort of thing, and see if I can use it as a calling card.
I've been trying to use mine as a calling card, and it's so difficult out there.
Yeah, but I really like your sitcom. I can picture it in my head as we read it.
Yeah, so we went to the Screenwriting East Midlands group the other week. I took Finn because I've been going with Devon for a few weeks. Well, say a few
you
weeks.
You got bored, Devon, you had to take me instead.
Devon ditched me, so I took Finn. So we've been going to this group. It's quite a new group, actually. It's been organised by Hugh Ditchman, I think his last name is. And the whole focus is just to bring together writers in the East Midlands, because there's not a lot of, opportunities for writers in the East Midlands or outside of London in general.
We tend to, if you're in the East Midlands, you tend to get overlooked for West Midlands or London or Manchester. People don't tend to talk about the East Midlands a lot.
No. You're either London or Leeds. Really.
Basically, yeah. It's Media City or it's London.
Yeah. So it's nice that he's starting to try and bring attention to the East Midlands. And the group that he's got going at the minute, basically all it is we just meet up every month and we read through different scripts.
And they provide
that's been
feedback
nice.
To the scripts. There's a nice kind of friendly atmosphere. It doesn't feel like you're walking into like big industry experts that are going to rip your script to shreds and tell you that it's rubbish. They're going to give you constructive criticism. They're going to, above all, put you first as a human rather than taking it out clinically and be like, this is a terrible script, blah, 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 blah. There'll be a reason why it's a terrible script, but they'll present it in a way where you feel considered. You don't feel like you're being alienated.
It very much is a writers' collective, and if you've got Devon there when you're doing a script read, he gives fantastic feedback, as you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thankful for EP and Andy and Gina and Devon, but Devon did provide like the best note I've ever had for that script, so I will shut up.
Devon's not paying you to say these things.
He's not, but he could. If you hear some bugging in the background, we are drinking tonight.
It's a very casual catch-up.
As you mentioned, I think it's episode 4, where we were drinking as well. Tonight I'm drinking a very cheap Barefoot Sauvignon Blanc from California. It was precisely £9 at the local corner shop, and I'm about to take the first sip of it.
You got Barefoot for £9?
Yes.
That's
the corner
not cheap.
shop takes you for a ride.
I was going to say, you're getting ripped off there. It's like £5 at Co-op.
That's not bad. Probably not £9 worth, but it's not bad. How about yourself, Andy? What are you drinking tonight?
Tears of My Enemies and Regret.
Oh, I love that brand. You picked that up in Asda?
It's just a random wine, really. Don't really have a lot of it. I'm just finishing
you like
it off.
random wine?
Yeah. Any drink will do.
Any drink will do. You can sing along at home.
I submitted my animated comedy pilot called Courier This.
Yay! Sorry.
It follows the lives of 4 new starters in the world of logistics and cargo, and what basically the shenanigans that happen around them. And I wrote it quite a few years ago now, and it's gone through a few redrafts. And this is the script that I have submitted to the BBC Open Call recently, which we've still not heard back from. But
it will take a couple of months. It won't be a quick turnaround.
I am looking forward to that rejection.
And then we can be rejection buddies, like I mentioned in the previous podcast. I was like, yay, twinsies!
We can both shake our fist at the BBC.
It's like, how dare you!
But it was slightly jarring experience actually to hear it being read out loud, because I had heard the first 10 pages be read out loud. That was on a YouTube open call.
That was back in that was last year, wasn't it? That was
last year.
What time? What day? What month was it in last year? What day? What time? What month? What second? I want to say it was like August, September.
I've only half listened to that.
Oh yeah, that was the one where I was listening to it back on the way home from work, like completely ignoring like traffic and like looking both ways before crossing the street. So I was too interested in seeing that. Oh, did I like it? Did I like it? And that was that one. Yeah.
So to hear it all being read out in this writing group, because it was only 2 weeks ago that happened.
So it was 2 weeks ago. By the time this gets uploaded, we would have gone to 3. 3 meetings. 1 online, 2 in person.
So to hear it being read out was really weird. I was hearing my words, and there was chuckles and there was laughs at certain points. And one of the punchlines, I wasn't sure if like whoever was reading the directions would get it right. The name of the warehouse, broke 'em. I broke 'em. So when he said it right, I did like this little fist pump underneath the table.
Got him.
And then I was listening to everyone. I had my head down. I couldn't look at anyone. I see disappointment or hatred in their eyes. I can't handle.
How can I do this to somebody?
I can't handle rejection in my fragile state of mind right now. So I was listening to these chuckles happening at exactly the right punchlines that I'd written, and where I'd been laughing myself when I wrote it actually. But then it went kind of quiet for the last 10 pages. It went very quiet, and I was a bit worried. Inside, I was having an absolute panic. I was like, I'm not hearing any laughs. What's going on? And I could hear Finn's stomach rumbling next to me.
I hadn't eaten dinner by the time I'd finished work and came to this meeting. I basically jumped on a train and got there. I hadn't eaten anything.
I literally
so the only disturbance was people chuckling and my stomach going...
Yeah. So I was trying not to laugh at Finn's stomach. And then we got to the fade out. Everyone does the, really nice, polite clap. Congratulations, you've got to the end of it. And Hugh goes, is there any feedback? In the silence. Oh my goodness. There was just a whole beat of silence where no one said a thing. And I was like, oh, this is terrible. This is utter shit. What have I done? What have I put myself through?
Just the point where they pick up the script and throw it out the window.
Yeah. I was having the same thoughts you were with that when the BBC rejected you. Just like, I am not a writer. We're done. And then the first person broke the ice and said they really enjoyed it. And then it just kept going like that, didn't it? Everyone at the table, they were just telling me what they loved about it, what their favourite punchlines was.
Negative feedback at all. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. It was good.
Yeah, the overwhelming positive experience of that absolutely buoyed me for at least a week, because I'd also been doing a short story, because it's not just screenwriting that I do, it's prose as well. And Devin had given me some...
we are.
Yeah, this whole podcast is not just screenwriting, it's writing in general.
It will have a screenwriting slant, but it's not inclusive for just screenwriting.
And Devin gave me some feedback. We did a short story swap. So when I was on lunch with him at work, we did a swap of feedback on the short story. And he was telling me what he enjoyed my short story as well, and gave me some really constructive criticism for it, and had to change the direction of the ending, which I admit was a little bit poor anyway. So he's helped me really strengthen it. And then on the back of that, I had the amazing experience of the feedback from, screenwriting East Midlands. I've just been on a natural high ever since. And
great.
You ended up with a whole slew of text messages from me at 7:00 in the morning.
Yeah. Yes, but I'm used to this sort of thing, because we will text each other at random times in the night. Just like, oh my God, I got an idea for this. I need to get it down.
There's a story I've been working on for so long, and I've just got stuck. I hit a wall. I went, right, fuck it, I'm going to put it down. Into the vault it goes. Yeet, we're going to shut that door. Fuck it. Gone.
Yeet, shut.
Not going to think about it. I'm going to work on something else because it's not working. And then at 7:00 in the morning, when I had the realisation, everything about the story just made sense. It all just clicked into place. I think I sent you about 4 texts back to back.
I'm looking for them now, actually.
I was like, Finn, you're going to get loads of messages. Bear with me, Finn. I need to tell you this. And
it's fine. I won't stop you. It's fine.
I worked it all out, and ever since then, I've been working daily on this script, and it's making such great progress. And having that really nice experience from Swem and the feedback from my short story as well, I think is nudging my confidence in the right direction, and I'm not holding myself back as much. I'm still doing it. I've still got imposter syndrome and low self-esteem in the background, but my confidence is rising with it.
Rising and falling. But no, I completely relate to that. For that, it's that fervor of like creative kind of like, that's what I'm looking for, that kind of creative kind of outburst. And you need to get it down on the page, and you need to like tell people like, I'm writing again, guys, I'm writing. Because I've had my own thing when I was going through the redrafts of those pizza scripts. And I'm like, oh my god, Andy, this is like, I forgot about this bit that was in the first episode. I didn't completely ignored it in the second episode, and now I'm going to put it for the third episode. So I've already started to like plan out the third episode as well. Don't know if I'm going to write the third episode. I might leave it as an outline, so I can use it potentially for a spec script in the future. But I've got it there anyway. So yeah, I completely relate to that. And I'm never going to dim your light whenever it comes to like kind of like, oh my god, I've got this idea, I need to get it down now. Ah! I'm like, yes, go girl. Just like fucking shoot for the stars even. But yeah, it was a really lovely experience. Like I said, the first meeting was online for me. Obviously, Andy's been to this script writing East Midlands for a while now. My first meeting was online, so it was on via Zoom. I've not used Zoom before. I've used Teams because of work, but I've not used Zoom before. That was a whole new experience to learn. But it really loved the atmosphere. And obviously, because of Zoom, you can actually like split people off into little groups, stuff like that beforehand.
No, don't
like
talk about
breakout. It was like a little icebreaker thing. And normally, when someone says an icebreaker, I'm like, oh god, what do I say? But it was actually really lovely, and it was nice to do that because I was actually broken off with Hugh and one of the other script writers. So it was nice to actually speak to people that I wouldn't normally have spoken to, and I didn't previously know as well. It was a lovely experience. And obviously, then we went back together and read a script together. Lovely. There's a different rotation of people each week as well, which is refreshing.
Yeah. There's one guy there who's reading voice I absolutely adore.
Mm-hmm.
I hate breakout rooms. Like even at work when we have to do breakout rooms on Teams.
It's that fear you get when you're in a school or university and they're like, okay, this next one is going to be a group project. And you're like, oh, why? But like it's necessary. Like you need to do it. It's like networking is part of script writing.
But networking is part of writing in general, I think. Like it's who you know. And you got to get your foot in the door somehow, especially with screenwriting. It's such a closed loop system.
Yeah.
To get an agent, you need to have production credit. To get production credit, you need to have an agent.
Yeah.
So for new people to get into that and break that cycle, we have to go through competitions. We have to have standout scripts. We have to catch the attention of agents and go, get out that slush pile. When I went through a round of like submissions to agents last year, the year before, silence, absolute dead silence. I got back one email to saying sorry, we're not taking clients on at the minute.
It was a lovely response, but it was kind of like a sorry, thanks, but no thanks.
I'm going to go again with this script that I've got polished, the one that had really nice feedback. There's a few tweaks I'm going to make, and then I'm going to submit it out again, give it another round of agent query and that sort of thing. Try and get it into a few competitions where I can. It sucks that that's what we've got to do to get noticed.
Yeah, I think I remember this on, it might have been the Script Notes podcast, or it might have been Sitcom Geeks podcast. By the way, there are two other podcasts that talk about writing that I quite enjoy. They said one of the more modern ways of getting noticed by an agent or by publishers or by producers is by submitting things into competitions and getting noticed that way. It's not always foolproof because sometimes writing competitions can be a little bit like hokey. They can be a little bit like, oh, it's a local raffle for a writing competition, which nobody that's actually part of the business will actually be associated with. Probably ignore those. But like writing competitions that are actually sought after by people that are in the industry at the moment, or that know people in the industry at the moment, are probably going to be more catered towards new writers.
Yeah, and there's something happening at the moment. I don't know if you've noticed, Script Lab's shut down now. There's a couple of script sites are shutting down. We've got the Nichols Fellowship. I think that's been delayed. I
didn't know this. This is new to me.
Oh, this is all stuff that I'm just finding out, really. And no one's actually commented on the Nichols Fellowship. It's just not been activated. Nothing's been said about it.
I mean, I get it. If it's something to do with the LA fires that we had recently, they had recently even, then I get that they wouldn't be like updating it as often as they would normally do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just difficult to find your foot in with it.
Without obviously retreading old ground and stuff like that. Like, the point is like, don't give up. It's kind of like, these are the factors you have to deal with when you're like wading through the writing landscape. I've got a friend on Facebook that is a fantasy author, and they were going through a recent patch of publishers not wanting to bite, basically, when it comes to like new properties or like new writing projects. And like, he was finding it really difficult as well.
Yeah, we're seeing so many reboots and extensions of IP. We're not seeing many new stories break through at the moment. People just aren't taking the chance on it.
I've heard that as well, like with TV as well. Like, it's much more difficult to get a one-shot new IP off the ground running and to be profitable than it is to get the next Fast and Furious movie or the next Sonic movie.
I mean, to give ITV their credit, what you can do is you can get one of those spinny wheelie things and you can like throw darts at it and just be like, okay, so it's a crime procedural. What quirky character do we need? Throw the dart, figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and who's their quirky sidekick who's got the rod up the butt?
Well, that is a common TV trope, so I laugh, but you're right.
I mean, I'm seeing ITV like that in the same way we see Hallmark being all about romance films.
I'm not going to poo-poo a rom-com because there are some rom-coms I absolutely fucking love. So, and I will be watching the Bridget Jones 4, even though I am 90% certain it's going to be shit.
Yeah. a reboot happening after so long.
I mean, 3 happened like at least 10 years after 2. So I don't know if it's going to be... It's going to make money because it's a brand, it's an IP, it's established. But I don't think it's going to make the same amount of money as 1 and 2 did.
No. Everyone's lives have moved on. So the original audience who watched Bridget Jones, their lives have moved on to a completely different place and they need to move Bridget Jones on with it. Otherwise the audience just is not going to stick with it.
It's not TV or film related, but I remember that with Duke Nukem, which was a video game character from the 90s. He had a couple of video games in the 90s, then disappeared. Like I think the company that made Duke Nukem went under and it was passed under different hands, that sort of thing. And then when they finally released another video game for Duke Nukem in 20-teens, it was shit. Because there had been such a long time period between the 90s and the 2010s where like it's no longer relevant. It's all the jokes were a bit old hat, and it was a bit like this isn't relevant anymore.
Yeah, if you're not moving the character on.
It bombed as a result. That's a topic for another podcast about reboots and sequels and that sort of thing. I'll add it to the list. And
adaptations.
And adaptations, yes, I'll add it onto the list now. You see, we're doing an admin meeting live on the podcast now.
We'll brainstorm as we go along.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is ever going to be like a fully polished podcast in that, you know, it's structured, it's crisp, it's, you know, bam, bam, bam. I just like that we just make it up as we go along. It's conversation about writing. We just enjoy it when people do want to join in the conversation. You know, we want to put a voice out there for people who are unpublished, who are uncredited, who are struggling on that side of it.
Not so much that we're trying to like provide a blueprint for someone else to do it, because everyone's writing journey is going to be different. Like even between me and Andy, like Andy's writing journey is going to be completely different to my writing journey. Andy has already gone out and contacted agents and producers and that sort of thing to try and get her script made. I haven't yet. And yeah, like none of the agents have come back to Andy and be like, yes, I'll have it. Give me 15. But she's put the legwork in, whereas I am mature enough to realise that my script isn't there yet and it does need a couple more polishes. And polish. I'm a writer, me. But yeah, I'm enjoying this journey. It's like, it's nice to kind of re-fall in love with writing again. And kind of like push myself in different directions with my writing. It's like I thought that to write comedy again, I hadn't written comedy for a very long time. I think it had affected me a lot. I think I hadn't written a strict comedy script that wasn't YouTube related in years. And going back to that script after 11 years, it did feel like a nice warm hug. I felt like I was like reintroducing myself to my inner child. It was great.
Again, it goes back to that conversation as well as writing for therapy.
Yeah, it did feel a little bit like that. It did feel a little therapeutic to go back and be like, this was me 11 years ago, but now with the wisdom that I have as a 33-year-old, I remember this time. I can, you know, make this even better.
I'm trying to be more mindful at the moment of not putting too much of my own personal journey in my writing, because I've seen that in some of my old. It's very much a reflection of the emotional state that I was in at the time. And that film script that I've mentioned is very much a reflection of what I was going through at the time in terms of a relationship. And I can see that looking back. So now going forward, I want to be more restrained with that. I want to still process it. I still want to use it as my lava, as that class I went to was saying. I think it was Meg.
Yeah.
The ladies who wrote Inside Out about using your internal lava. So I'm trying to use it, but in a restrained manner. So it's not just me vomiting my feelings over.
I mean, it's good to have something to draw upon, as long as it obviously doesn't become, this is a therapy session. and the audience have become your therapist. And it's nice to kind of work through things via writing.
Yeah. I think in the last 2 months, obviously, I've been through one hell of a ride personally. And if I start to put that in writing now, it's not going to come out in a way that I can excel in writing. It's just going to be a whole trauma dump. It's going to be an emotional vomit. It's polished. It's not going to be my best work.
You're too close to it at the moment, and I completely get that. It's like just you're still reacting from the explosion. It's kind of like flying through the air. You need to wait till you hit the floor and like landed on your 2 feet before you can then talk about that again.
Yeah, but I'm still kind of scribbling as I'm flying through the air. I'm scribbling.
The notebook is flapping as it goes through the air.
It is. I do have more motivation for writing these days. Even going through, it is my emotional outlet as well. If I'm feeling some sort of way, I just turn to my writing and focus on my writing, hunker down. And I'm getting quite a lot done with it.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I actually have, I just realised I have it in front of me. I've actually got a piece of paper that has a load of storylines. You can't see this because obviously this is the podcast. But Andy can see this. This is like all the storylines that I have as ideas for potential future sitcom episodes.
This guy's got like easily 3 whole series of episode ideas.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm not going to read through them now because this is not Jack and Nori. But it's nice to have that there as a little kind of like comforting, kind of like you can come back to here. These are some ideas to draw upon for any kind of future episodes. It's cool. And as this episode goes out, we would have gone to episode 3. We would have gone to the 3rd Scriptwriting East Midlands meeting we've gone to.
Yeah.
So I'm very looking forward to that. Do you want to go over the saga of the first face-to-face meeting I went to?
You can talk about that.
I'll talk about that.
What's your story?
Before I do, I just wanted to mention a little note as well. When you mentioned about when you were reading the table reading, you were like so nervous and not looking at everyone. I did notice that halfway through the script, as everyone else was reading it out and stuff like that, my shoulders kept doing this. Well, you can't see what I'm doing, but my shoulders kept going up and down, up and down, up and down because I was trying to stop myself from laughing. Well, I was given one of the lines of one of the characters, which I've read the script before this meeting. There were 2 characters that I wanted to read for. Obviously, you don't get to choose; they get offered to you. And I think Hugh picked the character that I really wanted to read for. And then the second place character, I was like, yes, I'll have that one. And I was loving every single line. They were great. And every single line, I'm trying to stop myself from laughing. But yeah, so when it came to the actual first face-to-face meeting I went to, this was about 2 weeks ago as we record this, it was in Nottingham. And I don't live in Nottingham. I live in Leicester. So I had to get a train over. And I'd, done the responsible thing. And I'd bought the tickets ahead of time. So I had a set train to catch. And a set train to catch on the way back as well.
We agreed to meet up early so that we could have food.
Exactly. And I'd even done some extra time at work so I could leave work early that day so I would be prepared. I could go home, get changed, jump my stuff and go. I did all those things. But as I was getting the taxi, it became very quickly apparent that I was going to miss this train. And I was in the taxi. Literally, I could see the train station in front of me. And my friend in the car was saying, you're not going to make it, you're not going to make it, you're not going to make it. And I said, well, I'll get the next one, it'll be fine. So then I got to the train station. The train left as I got there, as it always happens. It seems like it's a scene from a sitcom. It left as I got there, and this was the fast train. This wasn't the regular train that would normally go. I got a ticket for the next train. I got down to the platform. I am not telling you a lie now. There are about 8 stops to this train before it got to Nottingham. And I'm like, I'm not going to get to Nottingham now until, I can't remember exactly what it was. It was like just before it needed to be there. So I literally said to Andy, he was like, I'm going to be late. Oh my God, I'm going to be late. And then Andy replied back going, it's okay, it's fine, we'll grab something on the way, it's fine, we can get there, we've got time, it's fine. We got there and it was like 10, 15 minutes late or something like that, but they hadn't started yet. So...
No, because it always starts at 6:15, but they ask you to be there at 6.
Yeah. And we were the last ones there. Don't get me wrong, we were the last ones there, but they hadn't started yet. And they were very good of them to be like, it's fine, go get yourself a drink, come back, and we'll start there. It didn't feel like they were going to tell us off for being late. It was great.
I snagged you a Tesco meal deal.
You did. You were a great friend.
Yeah, well, I went to Greg's beforehand.
And also, on the way back, a quick one at the way back. So on the way back, I had a set train to get. And we were trying to see if there was an earlier train to get. Because we'd finished it a little bit early. And the train I needed to get was like just before 10. And it was like 9. So I was like, we've got an hour. Is there a train we can get back a little bit earlier? There are a couple of other trains that sometimes stop in Leicester.
Yeah, my train was going at 9:20?
Yes, 9, and mine didn't leave until 10. At least the one on my ticket did. We were looking around the boards. There wasn't a single train that was going to Leicester other than the one I had the ticket for. And because this is February, by the way, it was fucking freezing. So by the time I actually got to the platform and was waiting for my train for about 35 minutes, it was 0 degrees. I almost became an icicle by the time I got home. And my phone was dying too. I will finish. My phone was dying too. By the time I got in, about 11:30 at night, back at home, my phone battery was on 1%. 1%, Andy. It almost dies.
The cold weather weren't going to help your battery there.
I was like, ooh, I might have to get an Uber when I get back home. And I was like, I can't afford to get an Uber because I don't want it to die as I'm ordering the Uber and they get charged for it.
I felt so bad because it was really toasty on the train.
For the audience at home, I've just flipped her off.
That's the end of the podcast, yeah.
It's fine because Andy jests, but I stayed with her on the platform until her train arrived. And it got to the point where her train was about to leave and she was still on the platform. I was like, I don't want to leave you on your own. I was like, get your train. I don't want you to be late as well.
I was more worried about you.
I knew where I needed to be. I just wanted to get an earlier train. It just ended up not happening. That was why I was annoyed by it. It wasn't anything else. Just out of my hands at that point. Anyway, I digress. This might all get cut out by the time I get the podcast, but just had to get that off my chest.
Finn's ranting.
Finn's rant of the podcast. Like I said, I've really enjoyed the last couple of weeks. I feel like I've done a lot by not doing much. If that makes sense. Like, in terms of my writing journey, I feel like I've jumped forward a lot just by going to these meetings and by doing the table read and doing this podcast than I would have done if I'd not met you before. Like, I feel validated. I feel lovely.
You don't need validation to be valid, sweetheart.
Aww. This is why we keep you around, Andy.
I've got away with words when I'm not slurring because of the wine. And to celebrate the podcast, we've actually gone over 200 streams on Spotify and probably over, to be fair, we've probably gone over 200 on YouTube.
Last time I checked, it was 205.
We're over 200 streams, which is absolutely lovely. We're over 20 subscribers on both platforms.
Woo! And I'd say that a large proportion of that is down to you, Andy, because you are the social media squire.
Okay, you keep saying that. I don't update the social medias.
Yes, you do. You've upgraded you upgraded the Facebook earlier.
Yeah, it's like one post every now and again.
Don't shoot yourself down, Andy. You're doing the Lord's work.
Whereas if you look on my personal Instagram, it's all like random close-ups of plants
and cats.
Yeah. I've got no problems doing that. It's because I don't want to be forcing it down everyone's throat. It's just that modern social media and this whole influencer lifestyle, you've got to do the SEO and push every day to push the algorithm and game the algorithm, the hashtags, and I don't want to do all that. If you find the podcast, you find the podcast. If it's for you, it's for you.
I think that kind of makes you kind of a bit more human as well, rather than just being a robot who wants to churn things out every 5 seconds.
Yeah, and this isn't to make money. This isn't, we want to be shilling whatever sponsors we can get. We do genuinely want to just build a community of writers who are struggling.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that we don't want to do this because we want to get loads of money and be famous and yay. We're doing this because we enjoy it. We're doing this because we're using this as our kind of vehicle to continue our writing. Yeah,
we're getting quite a lot of positive out of it.
We've got quite a few lovely YouTube comments as well, so thank you guys for all your comments, all your love that you give us on YouTube and Spotify.
And don't worry about liking and subscribing and all that, but if there's any feedback that you want to give us, please, please, please do.
We appreciate it. We read every single comment and we reply to a couple of them.
I reply to all of them.
I reply to a couple of them. If you get a reply from Finn, you know that you've done well.
Finn's validation.
Yeah, so that's what we've been doing in the last 2 weeks or so.
2 weeks?
2 weeks, a month, whatever.
Everything.
But what have you been doing in the last 2 weeks to a month on your writing journey? Please let us know in the comments down below if you're watching this on YouTube, or on Spotify if you're listening to us on Spotify. I keep forgetting you can do comments on Spotify too.
Or drop us a comment on Instagram, Blue Sky, we're on that, and Facebook as well.
Indeedy so. For the last time, for a couple of weeks, the wine is starting to hit me. Thank you for joining us in this conversation.
This has been the path to publication.
I have been Finn.
And I've not been Finn.
Ah! We'll see you guys probably next month. Less wine, more topics. Bye, guys.
Bye.
And wouldn't you know it, there's some more outtakes as well. So have a listen, and we'll join you again in episode 12. I'm quite proud of the fact that we managed to get an episode out every single month since, I think, last August.
September, I think it is.
Is it September? Let me just double check my list, because I think it was August. And I can be like, ha ha ha, I was right. The audience at home does not care about this. They're just get on with the podcast.
Yeah, they're like, we're already dipping, we're shutting this down. So we've been going to this group. It's quite a new group, actually. It's been Hugo. We love it when people do join in the conversation as well.
Sorry, say that alphabet again.
Wow. Were you not listening?
I was trying to stifle a burp. But yeah, my phone just buzzed. It's my sister.
Oi. Antisocial.
Oh, Sarah wants to know how I am. I'll answer that later on.
What about you?
I'm happy to lead it there if you want to lead it there.
What do you want? What do you want, Finn?
$1 million in a Dodge Viper.
Why Dodge Viper?
My favourite car. Yeah, that's what's been going on with us recently. You just heard my belly rubbing more, didn't you?
Tesco meal deal. Hello.
Hello, welcome back.